Hello YouTube, thank you for joining my channel. My name is James, and in today's video I'm going to be replacing the hard drive in this Asus F441B laptop. So I'll be replacing the hard drive in this laptop, and also hopefully correcting in the process of replacing the hard drive and doing a clean installation of Windows, I'm also hoping to correct an issue with the Wi-Fi that the owner says is constantly dropping the connection. So with that said, let's dive into the video. Okay, so like I said, we're gonna replace the hard drive in this thing, and hopefully in replacing it and installing a completely fresh copy of Windows, we'll correct any internet connection issues that the owner has been having with this computer. But I will, of course, test that before I hand it over to the owner. So the first thing we're going to do in this video is go ahead and turn the computer on just to make sure that everything else is actually working. And so we'll go ahead and hit this button, and we'll wait for it to boot up and see what happens. Oh, and it's still trying to boot up. You can still hear it. Oh. But it is at the login screen. So we'll go ahead and I'm trying to do this like backwards. Go ahead and come down here and shut down. Down anyway, and we'll just wait for the computer to finish shutting down, which it's going to take a very long time to do. There it goes. Okay, so we've verified that the machine does in fact work. Otherwise, the hard drive that we're putting in is going to be this 180 gig Intel SSD. We're putting it in for performance, not for storage. The owner of the computer has a different hard drive, an external hard drive that they're going to be using. So we'll go ahead and set this SSD aside. And to get this machine apart, we're going to flip it over. There look to be about 10 screws, one in each corner, one on each side here, two here, two here. So with that said, let's start tearing into this thing. I've got my screwdrivers here. We'll go ahead and pull all of these little screws out and set them aside. This hard drive swap should be fairly simple compared to the last repair video that I did. Because I'm not going in and shouldn't have to take the motherboard out or anything like that. It should just be a fairly simple. The hard drive is going to be probably in this corner here. It's going to be in one of these two corners, so you know what? I'm going to come over here because I have a whole bunch of these well, not a whole bunch. I have a couple of these hard drive magnets. Okay, so all of these screws are now out of the bottom. Just feeling along here. Sometimes manufacturers like to put screws underneath the sticker, and you can usually feel it if you run your finger along. But I don't feel any holes in the plastic, so there's that. There might also be screws underneath these feet, but I doubt it. Like I said, one of these corners is going to have a hard drive in it, so there's not likely to be any screws there. Yeah, we're going to come in here and grab my little prying tool. And the battery's under here, but like most cases, it's inside the machine. I can't disconnect it. Whenever you're doing something like this, if you have the ability to remove the battery, it's always best to remove the battery before you open the case. But in modern laptops, that's not always an option. So I'm just trying to find a place that I can get in this thing. Get into this thing and start prying. So, yeah. Like so. Yes, there we go. Alright. We'll just... So now that we've gotten in here a little bit, so just sticking the pry tool underneath the ledge and just like gently twisting it around. And I probably started on the wrong side of the machine, just because there's this cover piece here. This cover piece looks like it would go, if there was an optical drive in this machine, it would go here. But looks like Asus opted to not put one in this machine. I could be wrong though. Yeah, I know my hand's blocking the view of the camera, but let's try on the other side. Okay. I got the one corner here to pop loose, but I'm not getting the rest of it. So let me get some stiffer tools. Get a stiffer pry tool in here, and maybe I can work the rest of this open. There we go. All right. And now it's coming apart. Now, what you'll find with computers is they're, with these laptops, is a lot of times, they're put together in different ways. So, like, sometimes you'll have where the bottom cover comes off like in the last video that I did, you know, the bottom cover of that machine came off, and then you had everything was mounted to this tray. And sometimes you'll have where everything is mounted in the bottom, but this top cover comes off. Like seems to be the case with this particular drive, this particular machine. So I have the keyboard tray removed or loosened from the rest of the machine. You need to carefully pick it up because there will be, you can't see it. There we go. So there's going to be two cables. There's always going to be two cables that are going to connect this keyboard tray to the motherboard. And those cables are going to run in this particular machine. One of them is running here. So I will go ahead and remove this tape. If I can get it, come on. I'll remove this tape and flip this little cover here up. There we go. That removed the, I'll show you in the bottom. But this little cable, I just unplugged the trackpad. And then I'm going to come here with this other cable, the keyboard cable, which is here. And this looks like it just pulls out, maybe. I'll try to flip it around so you can see what I'm doing here. Try to move the machine around. There we go. So the keyboard is connected here. And I'm trying to get the connector to come off without breaking anything, because I really don't want to have to order a new keyboard or anything like that for this machine. So I've showed you guys where the connector is. I'm going to turn it back around so that I can see what I'm doing, because it's a bit more important sometimes. There we go. So it's disconnected. So this keyboard connector, a lot like take this tape off of here. They put tape in some weird places. So the mouse connector here just flips up and down, and this keyboard connector does the same thing, just flips up and down. It was just a little bit tight, so I couldn't get it to flip up. So, and as I stated before, the hard drive was mounted in one of the corners. And it's here, and this one is being held in with this whole sled is being held in internally with just this one screw. So we'll take the screw out of the hard drive sled here. And this will come this way to disconnect from the motherboard. So just slide it to the side, and then it will lift straight out. And there you have it. The hard drive is now out of the machine. Since I'm in here, I'm going to go ahead and get some compressed air and blow this computer out. I was right, there is no optical drive. So this little placeholder here would have been, if they had one, there would be an optical drive here, but they didn't put one in. Anyway, I'm going to go blow this thing out and we'll be back. Okay, and we're back, and I've blown the dust out of the computer here. regarding the Wi-Fi issue on this machine, since I'm in here, and just to kind of roll the issue out, I'm going to take the Wi-Fi card out and reseat it. And the Wi-Fi card in this machine is positioned right here, held in by just a single screw. So go ahead and take this screw out. There we go. And this should lift up. Is it not wanting to? I'm also going to disconnect the antenna here just to also kind of roll that out. Little wire is the Wi-Fi antenna. And I'm going to see what I can do about getting this card to come out. There we go. Now it's coming up. I'm coming up. There we go. Alrighty. That was there's a little strap wrapped and underneath the cooler bracket over on this side. You can see the little, like a grounding strap kind of thing. Alrighty, so we're going to. So yep, I've taken this thing out. I've taken a couple of pictures in case I do actually have to order some parts. Owner of the computer won't have to bring the machine back to me to get it, so I can get part numbers. I'm going to work this grounding strap underneath the cooling fan here. It's basically just like sticky metal. Because, you know, hey, let's route the thing that needs contact with metal. This is like a semi-metallic surface, I think. The only reason I can think of why there would have to be a grounding strap like this. But, you know. If I get that to stick, then I can maybe. Yeah, it's in there. Alright, so we've reseated the Wi-Fi card. We'll go ahead and put this dummy optical drive back in. There it goes. Slide that back in. And put the screws back in. This screw in here. This screw here. Yay. Put that screw there. And we're gonna. One of the most difficult things about working on laptops and stuff like that is reconnecting this little Wi-Fi antenna, because it has such a small connector. I will post a picture. I know you guys can't see what I'm doing here, but got it lined up. And no, I don't have it lined up. Like, this tiny connector is very difficult to work with. Difficult to get it lined up right. That's actually why I mentioned in the other video, if I don't have to, I would rather not unplug these antennas, because they are so difficult to get back in place a lot of times. Especially if they've never been disconnected before. But there it is in there. Looks like there's a whole lot of play in this wire, like a whole lot of excess play. So I will try to route this wire over this way, so that that the excess wire is not in the way when I go to put things back together. Okay, so we're done with the Wi-Fi card for now. So I will go ahead and set this machine aside and bring our focus to working on the hard drive here. All right, so I've got the hard drive here. It is a 1 terabyte Seagate drive. So, and we're going to replace it with this 180 gig Intel SSD. So to replace the hard drive, we're going to take out, there's 2 screws on each side of the drive sled. Come on. Well, you can kind of see them even if the camera is not wanting to cooperate and focus. 2 screws on each side of the drive sled, so we'll just take those screws out. 2.5-inch drives in general are fairly unique in that compared to their larger counterparts, and that they can be mounted from the side or the top, or not the top. They can be mounted from the side or the bottom of the drive enclosure. So have the drive sled out. The SATA ports are on the open side of the drive sled. But what I was talking about is, you have mounting screws here on, mounting points here on the side, and my camera is absolutely refusing to focus on what is directly in front of it. There we go. So you have a mounting point here on the side and on the bottom. They both take the same size screw. It's just for different mounting situations. But so just to show you what I was talking about being able to mount anywhere, any way. And that's why, like, you see these 2.5-inch drives with the screw holes on the bottom. This so they can be mounted from the bottom. But we've got the old hard drive out. We will put the new hard drive in. Same way, label side up. SATA ports to the open area of the cage. And the only thing we have to do is line up the screw holes and put some screws in. So let's get that accomplished, shall we? Oh, we have the new SSD, or the replacement SSD, in the drive cage. We'll set the hard drive aside and bring the main computer back up. And installation or reinstallation will be the exact opposite of what we did before. We will basically just position this in place and then slide it over. Once it's been slid over, we reposition the one screw as marked by this little triangle that you can probably not see very well, but there's a small little triangle here in this corner. So we can, after we get the screw positioned, there we go, we will tighten the screw down. Okay, and well, the hard drive has been put in place. We reseated the Wi-Fi connection, the Wi-Fi antenna, and the Wi-Fi card itself. So the only thing left to do with this machine is to put the keyboard tray back on and install Windows on this new SSD. The keyboard tray, if you remember, had two wires going to it. One was connected here with this little flippy switch, and one connected here with its little flip connector. So to reinstall, we basically just position the keyboard, over where it will go, and pull the wires. I mean, they only stretch so far, which is why you have to be careful when you take this off. You don't want to just like, oh, it's unclipped, and then, go yank it away. Always be mindful of these two cables. Some machines might have more, but there's almost always at least two. So I have to be able to see what I'm doing, unfortunately, for you guys, but the installation of these wires is fairly straightforward. Maybe I can move the camera. Hold on. Yeah, I have the keyboard cable installed, but the installation's the same way. So to install this mouse cable or trackpad cable, you basically just push it into the connector until it stops, and then flip this little cover down, and it's in there. So that is that. And the last thing to do at this point is to just snap everything back in place. But we're not going to do that just yet. You remember from the last video, before you actually close everything up, a lot of times it's a good idea to just hit the power button just to make sure that it actually powers up, and it does, and it powers up into the BIOS. It will do that because there is no operating system yet. Since we verified that the computer is booting, and it's booting up the way it should be, we'll go ahead and hold the power button, shut it down, put it all back together. The way to put it together is the exact opposite of the way we took it apart, and basically just snap this all back into place carefully, of course, because you don't want to break any tabs or anything, but it should just snap back in. I will close the lid, sort of, not closing all the way, that's all right, and flip it over and put some screws back in it. Oh, well, I'm not going to do that because I can't close the lid correctly. So I can't close the lid because this is not snapped in back here. Now I can close the lid, flip it over, use our magnetic screwdriver, or magnetized screwdriver, and just go through and put all the screws back in. All right, so there's that. Oh, thing slides around quite easily on this plastic, so. And then just to make sure that everything is actually closed properly, I'm just going to go around and just give the enclosure a good squeeze. Make sure that it has all actually caught and closed, and there's no gaps or anything like that that shouldn't be there. So there it is. We have installed or replaced the hard drive in the laptop. So the next thing that is going to have to happen is to install Windows on this machine, and to do that, because I don't think it'll really take that long, but we don't want the computer to die mid-installation. So I will take plug in its power supply. So we'll go ahead and turn this on, get it going. We'll get Windows installed on this machine. So we are going to install the 64-bit version of Windows because the computer has a 64-bit setup. It has 8 gigabytes of RAM currently installed, so in order to use that, we need a higher version of Windows. And so we will go ahead and get this installation going. Now, it shouldn't take too long, because it is going to an SSD, even if it's working over USB. But we're going to install Windows, the English version, being that the factory keyboard here looks like a standard American keyboard. We'll go ahead and just tab through all of this, go with the defaults, and install now. We're going to do a custom installation right here. And what does this say? This says Windows cannot be installed to drive 0 partition 1, probably because it needs to be formatted. So we will go ahead and delete this partition, which is fine because Windows will create all of the partitions that it needs to create in this step. So yeah, we will let the computer do its thing. This will take a while. Realistically, could take half an hour, 2 hours.
Hi there, I'm Cortana, and I'm here to help. A little sign in here, a touch of Wi-Fi there, and we'll have your PC ready for all you plan to do.
We'll make Cortana stay quiet. Okay, so now that we have Windows installed on this computer, it's been completely installed, it's been updated, everything like that. Let's go ahead and turn it on, and it should boot up very fast, well, compared to what it was doing before. There's the post, there's the boot. And here we are on the login screen. And we are already on the desktop, so boots up very fast. Seems to be very responsive. Come over here to trying to do this upside down. We'll open up Microsoft Edge, and it's, loading. And the computer is still connected to Wi-Fi. As you can see down here, it is still connected to the Wi-Fi. And like I said, I'm trying to work on this upside down, so with the internet and everything, so we have that. And we'll go back over here to shut the computer down. Up here to shut down. In this video, we successfully changed the hard drive in an Asus laptop for a SSD to allow the computer to boot faster and be more responsive when opening programs and things like that. I hope you liked this video. If you do, hit like, hit subscribe. Feel free to leave a comment in the bottom, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.